This is the famous Rick, known as the Muscle Man, who is a receptionist but decides to become an adventurer instead. We see his first appearance with us as he is beaten and falling from the top of the mountain, and he was almost on the verge of death due to the harsh training he was doing. At this moment, we see the team he is talking about, and they are standing talking about him on top of the mountain. They say that Rick has become very good compared to his beginning in the training, so he can pass the E rank test that he will undergo after a few months, and that makes him qualified to pass the important test. We go to the city where there is a large number of adventurers who apply to the Adventurers Union, and every 2 years, they apply to raise their rank. But the problem of the adventurers is that they only have their bodies to rely on in their work, and if they become weak or their health is tired, they will lose their jobs immediately. That's why most of those who apply to this union are young people and teenagers, and this is a big dream for them to be strong adventurers and always take the spotlight. In this union, we see a girl named Elisa, who is the supervisor of the entrance exam tickets. And when Rick arrives to take his ticket, Elisa is surprised because she was his colleague before he disappeared 2 years ago after submitting his resignation to the manager. And he was also very surprised when he saw her because he didn't expect her to move to the main headquarters. She asks him where he was hiding and why he wants to be one of the adventurers. Weren't you a receptionist before? While they are talking, a drunk man appears, and it is clear that he is infatuated with Elisa and is waiting for her to finish work. But he got bored and wanted her to go out with him, so he wanted to force her to do that. But Rick intervenes and grabs the man, telling him that what he is doing is not allowed. But after a few seconds, due to his grip, the man faints, and Rick thinks it's from too much drinking. As for Elisa, she gives Rick his exam ticket and his entrance number, and when he went out, he met a woman named Reniette who was waiting for him and apologized to her for the delay, and told her that there are many competitors inside who hope to achieve what they want. As for Elisa, we see that the drunken man seems to be taking his last breaths, and we know that this drunken man was a former adventurer in the Union from rank AAA, and his name is Dumold, but he is sentenced to prison for the charge of assaulting women, and he is also nicknamed the Demonic Knight. At that time, Elisa noticed that Rick's handprints were on the drunk man's shield. They were amazed because the shield was made of steel. She was shocked when she realized that the drunk man was about to die from the strength of Rick's hands. Then we go back to Rick, who is inside the examination room. After that, the contestants were asked to put their hands on the blue crystal to measure the amount of their power through the light that comes out of it, which can determine the level of magical energy within each of them. Every time someone puts their hand on this crystal, a bright light appears inside it, so they can determine who is gifted with magic and who is not. Most of the group that was with Rick succeeded in this, but when he put his hands on the crystal, he only found a very small light that quickly disappeared. The person evaluating the results was shocked and told him that his magic level is in the negative F rank. Rick was shocked by this but remained silent. However, seconds after Rick left, something very strange happened, which is that the crystal they were testing with was shattered, and this was of course the effect of Rick's hands. Then they take the contestants to the test again to measure the force of their blow through an impact-absorbing device called the Jelly Gold. The person in charge of the test asked them that each person must hit the golden jelly bag with all their might to achieve a distinctive number that would benefit them in the promotion. And among them was the son of the Duke, who was only 11 years old, but people were saying that he had magic equivalent to the C rank, and it was clear that he was overly confident and loved to have all the attention on him. This is in addition to seeing it as a good opportunity to show his true power and become known as the child prodigy. The child approached and began to use his magical power, and everyone standing there was amazed by him, except for Rick, who was very surprised that the fireball he had created with his magic was small, and when it reached the shock-absorbing bag, it disappeared immediately. But the observer said it was a miraculous power and that he was truly gifted. Then he remembered when he was in the mountain, and one of those who were teaching him made a fireball spell, and the magic ball was very large to the point that he was running away from it, and then he knew the difference between what he was seeing and what he had been training on, and he wondered how a child with such ordinary power is called the child prodigy. Then it was Rick's turn. The monitor noticed that his age was very old. With sarcasm, he told him, "You are just starting your life as an adventurer at the age of 30? Be careful. If you don't train your magic when you're young, you won't be able to make it grow when you're older. Not to mention that measuring your magical capacity is extremely ugly. Take my advice for your own good. Withdraw and surrender now." In that moment, Rick felt that the monitor was right, but he was remembering all the effort he had put into the training he had undergone in the mountain and how harsh it was. He remembered when his teacher told him one day to surrender because you still have 30,000 hits ahead of you. That's when Rick got up and continued and didn't surrender. That's why he decided not to reply and used all his strength to hit him. But the surprise was that the golden gel bag was completely destroyed, to the point that Rick thought that the device had a flaw and it was impossible for it to be destroyed so normally because it was light in his hand. At that time, all those present in the test room were shocked by the shock, and then the Duke's son decided to compensate for this loss in the defense tests, because his magic is basically defensive, not offensive. But even when they went to the defense tests, Rick was able to repel the compound nature magic of the 4th level, which shocked the Duke's son, who said that he personally could not withstand that same magic. At this time, they were praising Rick, because his strength was tremendous. But he didn't feel that he had achieved any accomplishment, and at that time, he didn't know that he was able to withstand 4th level magic, so he was surprised by all this praise. And at that time, there was a very strong one testing the strength of our hero in resisting magic, and when he saw Rick's strength in resisting, he was shocked and told him, "What level are you in, that you can control your strength like this?" And he felt that Rick was belittling him with these words. So he hit him with a shock hurricane spell. But after a few seconds, they were all surprised when he was able to destroy the hurricane before it even reached him. And no one believed what they were seeing, and they couldn't imagine that someone with this strength would be with them in these tests. And because of Rick's strong resistance, one of the kingdom's knights of the 1st degree, whose name was Sylvester, heard the sound and was a knight of the 1st degree. And he said to one of the officials there, "I heard about a person of a weak rank who was able to destroy the golden gel bag. Is this true?" So she told him, "This is Adventurer 4242, coming from an unknown place and very strong." And Rick was able to overcome the power of high-level magic in his test. All of these things are completely unnatural. And here we know that Rick's training with very powerful adventurers was the reason why the difficult tests seemed trivial to him. With sarcasm, he said this was the latest joke she had heard in the guild. Honestly, she told him that if he did not believe her, he could see all the information about it right in front of him. From this information, he learned that Rick had been working for 14 years as a receptionist at the Senjichinkut Tiger Road branch of the guild, and at the same time was taking a written exam to determine the level of the applicant's theoretical knowledge. Quickly, we learn about the ranks of the adventurers. The F rank is for beginners, for whom fighting monsters is extremely dangerous. The E rank is where the guild begins to recognize them as adventurers, but they still have difficulty fighting monsters. The D rank is a middle-level rank, and no adventurers stay in it for long, considering it a transitional rank. The C-rank adventurers are capable of killing weaker monsters, but stronger monsters pose a challenge for them. The B-rank adventurers are able to kill strong monsters on their own, and the A-rank, the highest, can take on groups of monsters alone. After all these exam rounds, we see Rick sitting with the beautiful girl, Renette, and he tells her that he has finally completed the preliminary exams. She asks him about his performance on the written exam, and he says he is sure to get an excellent grade. During their conversation, the Duke's son, who is very hostile towards Rick, enters and recognizes him as the boy who was with him in the exams, asking him about his name. The boy gets more agitated and tells him his name is Freed, and Rick tells him to calm down, saying he will help him find his way back to his family. But Freed angrily tells him that he was waiting for these exams to fully showcase his skills and become the most famous one. But Rick stole the spotlight from him and ruined his plans, and his dream was destroyed. And at that time, a woman named Angelica came, and they call her Oni. She started blaming Rick for the Duke's son crying, and told him that she is his older sister and the oldest daughter in the family. At that time, Fred took the opportunity and told his sister that the 40-year-old man who was bullying him, and as soon as Rick heard that, it was as if a thunderbolt had fallen on him, and told him that he is still young in his 30s. But Fred and his sister keep talking about Rick, that he is old and in his 40s. So he told them that I am still 32 years old. At that time, Oni was upset, so she offered Rick a duel between them, and she took off her gauntlet and threw it at him. And this, by the way, is a move, so that if he takes the gauntlet from the ground, it means that he agrees to the duel with her. So he went with good intentions, picked it up from the ground, and he didn't know that by this move, he would be agreeing to the duel. After that, they go to the battlefield, and she tells him that you should know that I am a second-class knight of the kingdom, and with all my mental abilities, I have decided to challenge you and crush your head for my brother. Then Oni tells him that since you are the loser anyway, we will make an agreement that the loser has to live as a servant of the winner until he dies. And Fred encourages Oni at that time and tells her that I want you to defeat him in a severe defeat. At that moment, Rick looks at Renee and tells her that this woman said she is a second-class knight of the kingdom. Is that true? And she told him, unfortunately, she is really like that, and her level makes her an adventurer of the B rank. With horror, He tells her that the B rank that makes the adventurer able to defeat high-level monsters alone, and he tells Renee, wait, I'm actually just an F rank adventurer, so I can't even participate in this duel at all. And she tells him, don't say you're worried. And he tells her that if I fought this battle, I would go as a victim. Renee tells him, are the muscles in those arms of yours or what? Just be more confident in yourself and remember how you were humiliated in your 2-year training. And don't forget that the Eureka Fist team, who boast of being the strongest of all, consider you one of them. So you can't be in this condition in front of anyone. At this moment, she restores his confidence, and he decides to get up and start the confrontation with all courage. At that time, Rick didn't know what to do in the face of a woman in her full strength, and to what extent he could resist, but he had no choice but to accept that fight. Oni told him that she wouldn't kill him and would make some concessions. Not to worry, all because he was still at the F rank, so he would definitely die in her hands if he didn't take precautions. Then she started using her sword and her maximum speed, but without attacking him, she went to powerfully cut the iron door behind our hero in half, at an amazing speed to prove her abilities to him. And she told him that instead of greeting him with words, she had to show him her speed, although she had slowed it down. But Rick didn't understand why she was doing this. Then came the time when Oni increased her speed and attacked our hero. But at this point, Rick saw her as very slow and didn't understand why they called her the flash speed, as she was moving so slowly. So he easily dodged her attack, not understanding how he could do that, and that only the top-ranked knights could dodge her attacks and match her terrifying speed. This made her very angry, and she started attacking him again, but for the second time, Rick saw her as slow, to the point that he thought she had reached that high position through the relations between her family and the guild, because it is impossible for someone with such slow speed to be in a high position. So he no longer understood whether she was slow or he had become much stronger, as his running speed was much higher than that, and at this time, she was very angry and decided to use her maximum speed, but as she attacked him, she stumbled over a rock and was about to fall. But as she used her speed to avoid the fall, her sword was terrifyingly fast, but unintentionally. So our hero started trying with all his might to escape from her until he finally succeeded. And then Rick was amazed and thought that this was her power and that she was truly a very strong person. And so that Oni wouldn't appear that she had stumbled and hide her embarrassment, she asked him how he was able to dodge that legendary strike. And you seem to be as strong as they say. And then she decided to resort to her last weapon to match this fight, which is a technique that can only be executed 3 times. And then she loses all her energy. So she started implementing it once and twice, but our hero easily dodged it. And she didn't understand what exactly this man was? Anyway, this attempt of hers made our hero shout and decide to fight now instead of just taking a defensive position every now and then to end this long fight. She was trying by her technique for the last time, but luckily she got tangled up. She was heading towards him on the ground, so he decided to hit the ground hard to be able to stop her as she was approaching him at a terrifying speed. With the force of his blow, the ground was horribly excavated, and here, Oni started to cry and said that if she had not gotten tangled up, that blow would have hit her in the face. She was already among the dead, so she asked him in terror who he was exactly. He told her that he was just an ordinary adventurer of rank F, and he doesn't know why you keep asking me this question. But of course, she didn't believe him, and when he got out of the hole, he told her that he knows his strength is weak compared to hers. But it doesn't matter. He will try anyway and consider it a training session for him. But as soon as she saw him approaching her, she was terrified and told him, "What are you going to do? I surrender." Then he was very surprised and didn't understand why. And to preserve her dignity, she told him that she would let him win this time and that she would be lenient with him because he was able to avoid her quick blows. And in the end, she left the arena and fled. So he told her, "Wait, miss. I think there was an agreement that the loser would be a servant of the other until he dies." Of course, as soon as she heard that, she fled in panic. And then Rennet told him that they have to leave to know the test result. And she told him that the rest of the Orichalcum Fist team are coming to check him. And as soon as he knows they are coming, he gets terrified and feels that their presence will definitely cause a disaster. So we conclude our episode with the strongest adventurer team of all, but I wonder what will happen. And we will find out together next time if you are excited to continue it. So are you excited, heroes? Shall we continue it or not? I will wait for your opinion. See you later, dear ones. Peace.